Year was 1877. The wind off the prairie carried the scent of sage and sorrow that day. Snow had fallen in patches, but the land refused to hold it, melting it back into dust, into memory. That dust curled up from the hooves of Wes Calder's horse, rising like smoke from the earth, as if the ground itself was exhaling something too long held. His coat was long worn, the leather scuffed across the shoulders from years of lonesome rides. He hadn't spoken in days, hadn't needed to. Men like Wes carried silence the way others carried guns, closely, without apology. By the old stagecoach stop, the world narrowed. A crooked sign dangled in the wind, half swallowed by thornbush and time. The wooden bench beneath it sat rotted and split. No coach had come through in over a week, and likely wouldn't again till spring. Wes reined in, eyes scanning with the careful rhythm of a man who'd lost too much to not look closely. She was there. At first, she looked like a bundle of cloth abandoned by accident or grief. But then the wind shifted, and the shape of her became more human than Heap. A woman barefoot, skirt torn, hands bound in front with coarse rope. Her hair hung in snarls across her cheeks. Her body crumpled beneath her like she'd collapsed mid-prayer. Her lips were pale blue, but her chest still moved. A whimper escaped her throat, small, dry, almost guilty for making a sound at all. Wes dismounted. His boots hit the frozen dirt with a slow, deliberate crunch. He didn't speak, not even to calm her. The reins hung loose in his hand as he approached, eyes steady, breath clouding before him in soft puffs. Kneeling beside her, he saw bruises. Old ones on her arms, new ones blooming around her jaw. She flinched as he reached toward her wrists. The rope was tight, twisted cruel. He drew his knife, careful as a whisper, and cut it with one clean motion. She didn't bolt. She couldn't. She blinked at him, disoriented. "You're coming with me," Wes said, his voice rough with disuse, low and sure like something sacred. He lifted her gently, as if afraid she'd shatter in his arms. Her name wasn't asked. Her story wasn't demanded. Wes just turned toward the horse, mounted, and settled her against him like a broken wing. She didn't resist. She couldn't. The cold made obedience easy. The ride home was long and mostly silent. Once she stirred against him and mumbled something, bandits or maybe baby. He couldn't be sure, but her breath fogged the lapel of his coat, and she clung to him the way drowning things cling to driftwood. His cabin sat at the end of a half-frozen creek, tucked among crooked cottonwoods. Smoke still rose from the chimney. He'd left the fire burning. The front door groaned as he pushed it open with his shoulder. Inside, warmth waited, dim and flickering. The scent of cedar smoked thick in the air. Wes laid her down on his cot, fetched water, stripped off her boots, what was left of them, and wrapped her in a quilt made from scraps of his wife's old dresses. She was fevered now, shivering beneath the patchwork. Wes spoke only once more that night, kneeling by her side with a chipped mug of broth. "No one's going to hurt you here." She didn't answer, but her eyes fluttered open, and in the glow of the firelight they were green, not bright, but deep, like pine needles just after rain. He didn't ask her name. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of snow melt dripping from the eaves. Wes sat by the stove, turning a strip of rawhide between his fingers, eyes flicking toward her only once. "Water's warm," he muttered. "You can clean up if you're steady." She didn't move for a long while. Then slowly she sat up. Her wrists ached. Red lines circled them like old accusations. She whispered, "Thank you." Her voice rasped like old paper, barely audible. He nodded once, and nothing more. The wash basin sat near the hearth. She approached it with slow, limping steps. Her reflection in the water startled her. Dirt smeared, lip cracked, collarbone bruised. She dipped a cloth and began to wipe the grime away. Her fingers trembled. Later, she ate a bowl of beans with shaking hands while Wes carved a small piece of driftwood into something that looked like a feather. The silence between them stretched, not uncomfortable, but weighty. "I'm Clara," she said quietly, as if unsure she had the right to still be named. He nodded again. "Wes." Outside, the wind began to rise. Branches clattered against the walls like old bones. Clara watched him feed the fire, his shoulders hunched but deliberate. She saw the photograph above the mantel, an auburn-haired woman with a baby in her lap, both smiling like they didn't know the world could bruise you. Clara looked away. That night, sleep came in waves. Each time she drifted off, she saw flashes, canvas flapping on a coach roof, gunshots, a child crying, rough laughter, the smell of blood and sweat. She awoke gasping, and in the dark, she saw Wes in the rocking chair, watching her with unreadable eyes. "Nightmares," she said. "Yeah," he replied. The next day, he took her into town. She protested, weakly. "I don't want to see anyone." He shrugged. "Ain't about want. You need salve and thread. Maybe new boots." He lent her a shawl. It smelled like cedar and solitude. She wore it tight. The town looked at them like they were ghosts, or maybe like one of them was cursed. Eunice Meeks squinted through her spectacles as they passed the general store. Her lips curled like something sour. "Well, I'll be," she muttered loud enough for all to hear. He brought home a stray. Clara's cheeks flushed. Her hands folded into fists. Wes said nothing. At the apothecary, Reverend Grady offered a soft nod. He didn't ask questions, just handed over a tin of balm and a spool of clean thread. Wes left a silver coin on the counter. No words were exchanged. Back at the cabin, Clara sat on the steps. Snow began to fall again, lightly. She let it land on her lashes, unmoving. "I'm not sure why you helped me," she said finally, her voice fragile but clear. Wes stood beside the fence, mending a broken post. "Didn't look like anyone else was going to." "That's not a reason." He looked up at her then, eyes the color of weathered stone. "Maybe not, but it was enough." She stared at him a long while, then turned her gaze to the falling snow. Inside, she found a small wooden comb on the table. Old, worn smooth from years of use. Not new, not fancy, but it was there, left for her, plainly. Her breath hitched. That night, by the fire, she combed out her hair in slow strokes, each one pulling through tangles of dirt, of memory. The comb slipped through like a gentle truth. Wes watched from his chair, silent. His eyes didn't linger on her body, only on her hands, her face. He saw the tremble that wasn't from cold, the way she bit her lip, trying not to cry. "You can rest," he said softly. "You're safe now." The logs popped in the fire, casting light that wavered and danced. And Mary, who had been tied and tossed like something to discard, pulled the quilt tighter around herself and nodded. Just once. The wind outside howled, but inside, the quiet was not empty. It was waiting. Snow clung to the fence posts like lace stitched by grief, delicate but cold. The days passed slow in Wes Calder's cabin, each one a quiet act of recovery neither of them dared name aloud. Clara mended his shirts with silent precision, and he left her space, room to breathe, to exist, to not explain herself. The town's judgment, however, did not thaw with the snow. By the fifth morning, Eunice Meeks had made sure every soul from the blacksmith to the undertaker new married was staying with Wes Calder. Unmarried, unspoken for, her wrists recently scarred from rope and something worse. They said she might be a liar, a criminal, a curse. Wes heard it in town, saw the way folks crossed the street, the way the marshal squinted just a second too long. "She's got a story," Eunice whispered to a widow near the church steps. "And I doubt it ends in anything good." Wes said nothing, just picked up salt, flour, and a length of canvas, and returned home like nothing touched him. But the dust on his boots told a different tale. Clara, too, felt it. She sat longer on the porch now, eyes trailing the creek. Her hands trembled less. Her voice, still hushed, had started to return in fragments. And one evening, after supper, she finally told him. There was a child. Wes didn't speak, just let the words come. She was sick. I was nursing her. Her mother asked me to ride with them west. We didn't get far. The coach was stopped. 2 men, bandits, wanted the strongbox. The mother tried to hide her jewelry in the baby's blanket. Clara's mouth twisted like the memory tasted bitter. They hit her, took the brooch. When I screamed, they grabbed me, said I talked too much, tied me, and threw me out like I was nothing. She paused, eyes distant. The coach kept going. I don't know what happened to them. Wes leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Why'd you come out this far, Clara? I thought I was escaping something, she said. Turns out I was just being delivered to it. The fire crackled between them. Wes said nothing, but his gaze softened, something flickering behind the blue-gray of his eyes. Respect, maybe. Recognition. 2 days later, Marshall Doyle came up the road. His boots left clear prints in the snow, deliberate and slow. Need to ask some questions, he said, tipping his hat. Clara stepped onto the porch before Wes could answer. I'll speak to you, she said. Her chin lifted a fraction, still shaky, but no longer hollow. The marshal eyed her bruises, the shawl drawn over her shoulders. You got proof of your story? Witnesses. She looked him straight in the face. Do women usually carry notarized affidavits when they're being thrown from stagecoaches? Doyle cleared his throat. Folks are concerned. You came out of nowhere. Got no one. And Wes, well, you know folks don't forget easy. Clara's voice didn't rise, but it grew heavier. I didn't ask to be saved. But he did. He gave me a roof and silence. Didn't demand anything. Didn't even ask what happened. Maybe that's the problem. You're not used to men doing good without expecting something back. Wes stood behind her. Not in front. Not beside. Behind, quiet and ready. The marshal nodded, more uncomfortable than suspicious. Just making sure nothing's wrong. He left with his pride slightly bruised. That night, Clara sat beside Wes on the steps. You didn't defend me, she said, not bitter, just observant. Didn't need to, Wes answered. A pause. Then, thank you. He tilted his head. Wasn't kindness. It was right. Clara smiled at that. A real smile, not the faint curve of lips used to apologizing, but something warmer, rooted. Later that week, Wes found her in the barn, her fingers tangled in the mane of his mare. I used to have a horse, she said. Named him Bristle. He hated everyone but me. Wes handed her the brush. You ever want to ride again? Saddle's in the corner. She turned to him. You trust me? You haven't lied yet. It was simple, but it hit her like scripture. No one had trusted her, without evidence, since her husband died. Since the war ended. Since the world turned colder. As spring began to thaw the edge of the world, Wes took her into town again. The town didn't look the same. Or maybe Clara had changed enough to see it clearly. A man stood outside the saloon, his face half-shadowed under a slouch hat. Something in her stomach twisted. The shape of him. The way he held himself. Too loose, too smug. That's one of them, she whispered. Wes followed her gaze. Said nothing. Just watched. That night, Wes cleaned his rifle for the first time in months. Clara sat at the table, watching his movements. The way his fingers moved with reverence, not anger. Are you going to kill him? He paused. Not yet. The next morning, Wes rode into town alone. Clara waited, sitting by the window. She half expected gunfire. A body. An arrest. But by sundown he returned, quiet, intact. He's in jail, Wes said simply. Told the marshal your story. The man bragged in the saloon after too much whiskey. That was enough. Clara stared at him. You did all that for me? No, he said. I did it 'cause justice don't work unless someone moves it. She stood then, crossed the room to him. Her hand rested over his heart, uncertain but bold. His breath caught. Her fingers were cool against the wool of his coat. You could have walked away. Let me disappear like nothing. I've had ghosts in this house long enough. The moment lingered, tender and bare. That evening, they ate stew by lantern light. Clara laughed once at something he said, a low chuckle that surprised even her. Wes smiled. Not wide but soft, like something was waking up. In the days that followed, Clara's presence became part of the rhythm. She swept the porch, planted herbs in the frost-soft soil. Wes built her a small writing desk near the window. Never said why. She found the old gloves one morning. Leather, lined, worn but warm. They sat neatly folded on her quilt. She slipped them on, fingers trembling. On the porch, Wes leaned against the post, watching the creek. She joined him. I don't know what I am to you, she said. You don't have to know. You can just be. She looked down at the gloves, then back at him. I want to stay. Wes looked at her, really looked. Then stay. The sky was soft with spring cloud. Wind rustled the trees. Clara reached for his hand. He let her. And somewhere deep in the stillness between their two broken lives, something new began. Not loud, not burning, just growing. Not love by name. Not yet. But grace. The kind you don't earn. The kind you offer. And for Mary, once discarded in the dust, it was enough to begin.